or any sort of a theory outside of what they've been told, they immediately call quackery.
Absolutely.
But it's a weird knee-jerk reaction to something, especially when you talk about asteroids, that is a very real part of our past. Yeah. We have a ton of evidence. I mean, there's actual craters that you can look at on Earth. The moon, which has no atmosphere, is littered with them. And if we look at the moon as a model for what could possibly have happened to Earth, or at least, some of them, obviously with the moon having no atmosphere, it's going to get hit a lot more than we are.
Sure.
But still, this is a very real situation that this solar system, at least as far as we know, the only solar system that has to deal with this. But we know this is a real issue. I mean, we've seen impacts.
Well, it's like you just said. On the one hand, you have Earth scientists looking at the Earth, and what they're realizing is that the Earth is pockmarked with scars, and each of these scars represents a tremendously powerful catastrophe that's happened in the history of the Earth. Now, that's accepted by mainstream science, that major catastrophes have happened in the history of the Earth. But where this thing now is about to come full circle is the recognition that these kinds of catastrophes have also influenced the rise and fall of civilization, and a lot more extremely than has been recognized up to this point. And while geologists and earth scientists are looking at the surface of the Earth and realizing that etched into the surface of the Earth or imprinted into the surface of the Earth are hundreds of scars, of which undoubtedly are only a small percentage of the total that exist, at the same time, astronomers are looking out into near-Earth space and discovering that we cohabit space with a lot of stuff. It's not as empty as we thought. And just within the last 6 or 7 weeks, we've had 2 close flybys.
Of previously undiscovered asteroids.
This
is the point, because NASA keeps saying, well, we've counted 1,650 asteroids and none of them are going to hit the Earth in the next 100 years. Well, yeah, that's true. But what about all the ones they haven't counted, which are estimated to run into hundreds of thousands and which haven't been seen yet? And what happens is we see them roughly 10 days before they pass the Earth. That is not enough time to do anything about them. But we have time if we're prepared to be rational and reasonable as a civilization to take care of this issue.
Now, when you're dealing with hundreds of thousands of near-Earth objects that are flying around, like what are the things that could be done to protect Earth?
You can paint, it's low tech actually. You can paint one side of the asteroid, affect its albedo so that the sun's rays push differentially on one side rather than the other. That will shift its orbit slightly. It has to be calculated. You can give it a little knock with a rocket, basically. You don't want to blow it up. You don't want to turn, your one big piece of artillery shell into buckshot. You don't want to do that. You want to move it into a safer orbit. You can mount jets on it. People are looking now to mining asteroids. Of course, our society always goes, our civilization always goes for where the money's to be made. But if we can mine asteroids, we can move asteroids, and the technology is there.
And ironically, the most dangerous asteroids are going to be the ones that are the closest to the Earth, which are the most accessible. And the asteroids pretty much have unbelievable amounts of resources on them. I mean, pretty much everything that is being mined on the Earth can be found in asteroids, from the hydrocarbons to precious metals to all of these things. And we're not that far away from technologically being able to actually, mount expeditions to asteroids and mine them. And that's the solution I kind of prefer, because again, these things are tremendous sources of all kinds of things that would be usable to an expanding civilization, and we could feasibly, within a decade or two, be mining asteroids. And again, the ones that are the easiest to access are also going to be the ones that are more dangerous, because they're the ones that are coming the closest to the Earth. So,
and another point here is that there is one specific danger. There's one specific, if you like, region of the sky that really needs to be looked at. And this is the region of the sky. This is why I wrote Magicians of the Gods, because of this discovery that there's a thing called the Taurid meteor stream, which is 30 million kilometers wide and which envelops the solar system. And the Earth on its orbit around the sun passes through the Taurid meteor stream twice a year. Turns out the Taurid meteor stream is the debris of a giant comet that came into the inner solar system about 20,000 years ago. That thing was at least 100 kilometers in diameter, according to their calculations. It may have been more so. And then, like other comets like Shoemaker-Levy 9, which spectacularly hit Jupiter in 1994, it began to break up into multiple fragments. And those carry on orbiting on the original path, and as they break up more and more, they degrade, and small bits and large bits break off, and it gradually fills up a kind of huge hoop of debris that the Earth is passing through twice a year. It takes us 12 days to pass through it. We do 2.5 million kilometers a day on our orbital path, 12 days to get through the Taurid meteor stream. And the scientists of the Comet Research Group have made the point that a big object out of the Taurid meteor stream, multiple objects, as a matter of fact, was what hit the North American ice cap 12,800 years ago. It looks like there was a second series of impacts 11,600 years ago from the same source. It looks like there were other impacts in the Bronze Age. The most recent, almost definite impact out of the Taurid meteor stream was Tunguska in Siberia back in 1908. That hit on the 30th of June, 1908, and that's at the peak of the Taurid June shower, when we passed through the Taurids in June and in November. And what they're saying is we really need to focus on this Taurid meteor stream. Their calculations are that there are hundreds and hundreds of massive objects in that Taurid meteor stream. And, you know, as a comet breaks up into bits, those bits become asteroids, and those asteroids are circling in the Taurid meteor stream. And I've likened it to strapping on a blindfold and crossing an 8-lane interstate twice a year and just hoping that we don't hit any heavy traffic, you know, that we meet bicycles or motorcycles rather than trucks. But the trucks are out there, and what the Comet Research Group scientists are saying is we need now to be in-depth investigating the Taurid meteor stream, because it appears to be the hidden hand in human civilization. It has wiped out episodes of our history in the past, and there's no reason to expect that it won't do so again unless we do something about it, because the remnants of that original giant comet are still circling in the Taurid meteor stream, and they are fucking dangerous.
Now, how is this being received in mainstream science? I mean, is there any resistance to this? Because it seems like this is all pretty straightforward and traceable.
Mostly being ignored.
Mostly being ignored.
And why do you think that is?
By scientists who have a vested interest in other ideas. First of all, there's a vested interest in not admitting that cataclysms are important at all. This goes right back to the 19th century, when science began to take shape in the form that we know it now, and they wanted to separate themselves off, understandably, from superstition. So they didn't want anything to do with something that sounds like the biblical flood, for example. They felt they would be contaminated by that, and they preferred to explain any cataclysmic evidence as a result of gradual processes.
So you really think it's because of the reluctance to accept religion or religious ideas, or to separate themselves from it?
No, I think that's where it started.
That's where it started.
They wanted to separate themselves off from that. Now they've gone a long way from that, and many, many scientists have got a vested interest in what is called uniformitarianism or gradualism. And they don't like to hear about cataclysms having any major impact on the story of life on Earth.
So is it sort of the momentum of these initial desires to escape religious influence that have sort of led them down this path?
Yes. And then there are others who have a vested interest in current accounts of global warming, others who have a vested interest in extinctions taking place now. They want to say that our ancestors were responsible for the extinction of all the mammoths and